Dear students, now let us come to our history class. The name of the lesson yesterday we studied, that is geographical features, and in our yesterday class I gave some questions as homework. The first question is, what is peninsula? What is peninsula? Can you guess? Peninsula means a land surrounded by three sides of water and one side of land is called peninsula. The second concept we studied that India is a subcontinent. Why we are discussing about geographical features of India? India is a subcontinent. Nehru described it as melting pot. Why? In India only we can see different types of people following different types of culture, rules, norms, and practicing other rituals also. And they also speak different types of languages, different types of dress pattern, etc. Totally anywhere in India we can observe different types of people. Different types of people means they are following different cultures, different religions, etc. Thus totally or finally they thought that we are all one, we are all Indians. Therefore it is called a subcontinent. Then the geographical features, there are four types in the geographical features. In other words, or in short, geographical features are studied under four headings. First one is in the north, snow-capped Himalayan mountain. Second, flat Indo-Gangetic plains. Third one, Deccan plateau. Fourth one, coastal areas in the south, in South India. And we also studied the uses of Himalayas, uses of Indo-Gangetic plains, uses of coastal areas, and we also studied the world's oldest place or area, that is Deccan Plateau. This Deccan Plateau is the oldest plateau containing different types of rocks, Thus, all these four features are the geographical features of India. Totally, while studying those four factors, we can understand the total condition of India. Coastal areas are also there. It is very helpful for international trade. Then fishing, ports, not forts, ports, and it also attracts many tourists. Gangetic plains are very fertile, therefore different types of or different dynasties from outside India came to here to establish their own power here. Himalayan region, it gives protection to the whole India. Then we also studied the Narmada river in the middle of India. Narmada river separates India into two, Malwa Plateau and Deccan Plateau. Narmada river separates India into two, Malwa Plateau and Deccan Plateau. Malwa Plateau is also called Central Highlands. Central Highlands. Central Highlands. Which plateau? Malwa Plateau is also called Central Highlands. Another one is Deccan Plateau. Then eastern and western coastal areas. The eastern coastal line is called the Coromandel Coast. Eastern coast is known as Coromandel Coast. Coromandel Coast. Western coast or coastal area is also known as Malabar and Konkan. Konkan and Malabar coast. Now, here we can find both in the eastern coastal area and western coastal area, we can find different types of port towns. Port towns. Port towns. It helps trade, business, both inside and also outside, that is foreign trade. Because of foreign trade, we can earn a lot of money. We can means our Indian economy can earn enormous money. Foreign trade was carried on those days only through sea routes, not through roadways. Foreign trade takes place only through sea routes in olden days. That took place in sea routes. As a result, port towns flourished, port towns flourished, emerged, started, economic activities improved, population also increased. Totally, those areas, one of the main, transferred as one of the main business center of India. For example, in the south, Pandya, Chera and Cholas. Pandyas, Cheras and Cholas. They occupied this area and tried to establish their power, their supreme power over these lands. Then the geographical features which binds people together, that is the speciality of India. Geographical factors of India that binds Indians. Despite of communal diversity, there exists a cultural unity. Different communities are there practicing their own rituals. But ultimately we are all Indians. Communities are different, but feeling is one. What is that feeling? Unity, cultural unity. Give and take relationship among the peoples. For example, Christians invites Hindus during the time of Christmas. During the time of Ganesha festival, Ganesha Chaturthi, we invite Muslims and other our Christian friends to our house. That is called cultural unity. Where there is unity, there is divinity. Who told? Our Swami. He told, where there is unity, there is divinity. Therefore, it improves the relationship among the people and also the feeling of oneness. What you say? National integration. Yes, unity is in diversity is the essence of this culture. Unity in diversity. People are different. But this unity is there among the people. That is about geographical features of India. The summary of this geographical features of India is, though India is filled with different types of people, our feeling is we are Indians. Unity in diversity. So many diversities, differences are there. But the ultimate view is we are all Indians. That is called unity in diversity. Therefore, Nehru told India is a dash pot, as I told, melting pot. Yes, India is a melting pot. Yes, students, now the second step of this lesson is prehistoric age. In our first chapter, I told his prehistoric age and historic age are the two classifications of history. We studied what is there in historic period in the first chapter. Now in this we study the features of prehistoric age. Prehistoric age. Historic age, the very name indicates the meaning of this concept. Historic age. This is not historic age. This is prehistoric age. It is the age before the historical age. Now, students, you also knew that in the initial stages of man, he did not know anything. He couldn't speak, eat. Then he did not have any proper roof, I mean house. Totally, his behavior was uncivilized. Totally, his behavior was uncivilized, not civilized like us. Why it is so? Why it is so? Because they were barbaric in nature. They didn't have any culture. They didn't have any rules and regulations. They didn't put on any dresses when in the early stages of mankind. Now, the prehistoric period means, I already told, before the historic period. This is the period before the historic period. Before the historic period, man didn't know anything, means he did not know the art of writing. Therefore, it is very difficult to him to tell or express his news and views. News and views. Now, what is prehistoric age or what is prehistoric period? The period before the discovery of the art of writing is called the prehistoric age. The period before the discovery of art. Before the discovery of art. Which art? Art of writing. This period is known as prehistoric period. Therefore, once again, notice here, the period when man did not know the art of writing, that period is known as prehistoric period. Otherwise, in short, the period before the discovery of writing is called prehistoric age. This is so because we don't find evidences of the linguistic development of mankind. Why it is a prehistoric age? There was no proofs, evidences, etc. Why? Because man did not have any linguistic information. What is linguistic mean? Linguistic, it is related to language. It means he did not know any language. Linguistic development was not there. Therefore, he expressed his views through some sounds, or he used his body language, or he tells about his views through some gestures. What is a gesture means? Through some symbols or gestures, because of the absence of art of writing. That is the main feature of this prehistoric age. Therefore, what is prehistoric period? It is the period before the discovery of art of writing is called prehistoric age. The main feature of this age is people or mankind did not know the linguistic information or linguistic development. They used only certain or different sounds. We don't get any written records. Therefore, in the absence of linguistic development or linguistic information, historians or people like us, they did not get proofs, records. Records about what? Proofs about what? Proofs and records about the lifestyle of this prehistoric man. Lifestyle of prehistoric man. His nature, I already told, he was barbaric. He was uncivilized. He was not civilized. No written records are there. For historical age, we have proper, suitable, appropriate records. Why? Because man learned art of writing. Here, it is the absence of art of writing, no linguistic development. Therefore, historians, including us, we are also historians. Why? We study history. Therefore, we are also historians. Therefore, we didn't have any information or records or any other information regarding the life pattern of prehistoric man. Then, how do we get to know about the people and their lifetime in the prehistoric age? Then, how we knew these factors of this prehistoric man? Because of archaeologists. Because of archaeologists. Then, who is an archaeologist? An archaeologist is a historian he studies history in deep manner. Through certain innovation, discoveries, he can learn. Here archaeologists was the first person they studied about prehistoric age. They only able. We are not able. We are unable. Therefore, the people who know about the lifestyle of prehistoric age, who archaeologists. In this age, man was nomad. In this age, in modern days, man was nomad. Historic age. Prehistoric age, man was nomad. He was nomadic in nature. What is nomadic in nature means? We are not nomad. Nomadic nature means traveling from one place to another in searching of food and water. They did not have proper land or house, a permanent shelter. They didn't have. They are like tourists. They going continuously for their survival. Thus, the prehistoric age man was a nomadic in nature. And another point is that food gathering. He gathered foods. What is gather means collect. He collected many foods, not fruits, food. Why? Because of his survival. ಬದುಕುವುದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ತಿನ್ನುವುದು or ತಿನ್ನುವುದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಬದುಕುವುದು. You choose anyone, that is left to you. Yes, but food gathering and nomadic in nature are the two features of prehistoric age. He was nomadic. His work was food gathering, collection of food. It is the two features of prehistoric man. Along with the food gathering, how he collected food through hunting. Therefore, another his job or work is hunting. Through hunting he collected food. Therefore, he was nomadic in nature. See, there is a close link between among the three. Hunting to collect food. For food collection, he moved place to place. These are the three features of this prehistoric man. Archaeologists have discovered a few tools created and used by these people. Created and used. Mainly they used what? Mainly they used stone tools. Kallina ayuda. Stone tools. As axes, then like knife, and he also used these stone tools as arrows. ಬಾಣದ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡಿ arrows, axes, knives. Why? To peel the skin of animals. What is peel means? Remove. Peel the skin of animals. Then he also used certain wooden tools. He also used certain bone tools. Bones of animals or people. Bones of animals or people he used as a means of two. Why? To collect food. Thus they used stone as axes to chop down trees. They used axes not only to peel the skin of animals, but also they used this to remove the first layer of the trees. That is called chopping. Chop the trees. ಅದರ ಮೇಲಿನ ಸಿಪ್ಪೆಯನ್ನು ತೆಗೆಯುವುದು. That is called chopping. For this chopping he used axes made up of these materials. Now they used stone axes for the purpose of chopping. Then they build huts for themselves to make handles for their weapons. The word prehistoric period provides a sort of vision to us. Yes, finally or in the last stage, this nomadic man stopped this nature. Sometimes he created or constructed a leaf houses by using a small plants and trees. He constructed houses where he stored food. Thus, through archaeologists, we can know all these factors. We are also living today, but imagine the comforts and luxurious items of nowadays, and also compare you with the prehistoric men. They did not have any facility. They are real, the sons of soil. ಮಣ್ಣಿನ ಮಕ್ಕಳು, not ಮಣ್ಣು, yes, sons of soil. Now the question is, this type of people, this type of lifestyle used by prehistoric man, then the next question is, where did the prehistoric man live? He constructed small huts. It is not a house. House means here hut. Where did he live before this hut? Before the construction of hut, where did he live? He lived in what? He lived in a caves, guhe, and trunk of trees. Trunk of trees means potare. Yavudra potare? Marada. Caves, trunk of the trees, and certain other places having stone gaps. What is a stone gaps means? Stone gaps means a space between two rocks. It is like a cave. In such caves also, man, he belonged to prehistoric age, he lived there. Therefore, he lived on the holes of tree trunks and caves. That was his hut. Then he knew the art of constructing small huts. What you say, jopdi, dere, such a type of huts. Then after that he rejected his nomadic life. He wanted to become a civilized one. How? By living in a particular place. To construct huts or other sheltering areas, he used different types of materials. Which were the materials he used? How did he use? What were the uses of those materials? Students, we study in our next class. Today we are ending our this class. Now take down some homework. First question is, how does coastal areas helps? How does coastal areas help in foreign trade? Foreign trade. Second question, define prehistoric age. Prehistoric age. Third one, where did the prehistoric man live? Prehistoric man live. Yes, these are the three questions to you. It is homework. While attending our lesson tomorrow, we shall, before that, we have to write answers for those three questions. Sai Ram.